I don't care if she's running for president or not. It's still 2018.
I understand.
Anyway. All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. Venom is everywhere.
Kamala Khan for president.
Wolverine is dying.
All this and more on this week's episode of the 6 Months Behind podcast.
Three, 2, 1.
What is up? This is the 6 Month Behind podcast for the week of 10/8/18. I am Pat.
And I am Sean.
And this week, we're Bill Gates and Paul Allen because Paul Allen passed away recently. And that's a very
like an
sad
hour
time.
ago.
Well, yes, as we're recording, when people listen to it, it could be hours or days or weeks.
Could be. But
Could be.
In the present time that it is now that this recording is happening, he died like an hour ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Paul Allen is one of my heroes because Steve Jobs worked until the day he died. Bill Gates is still doing all kinds of work. Paul Allen had a mild health scare, left Microsoft in 1985, left the board of directors in 2000, was just like, peace out, man. Started playing in the rock band, formed the Jimi Hendrix Museum, bought the Portland Trailblazers basketball team, bought the Seattle Seahawks football team, founded the Seattle soccer team that's there, bought a submarine, just chilled, man.
Dude, took all his Microsoft money and just was like, dude, I ain't dying like this. I'm going to have fun first.
But he still gave away $2 billion.
Dude, yeah.
I mean, he set up a foundation, and $2 billion is how much they've given away to date.
Yeah.
And I still left him lots of money to have a good time with.
Dude, you can do a lot with a couple $1 billion.
Dude, he was like, done. I'm out, man. And that's what I don't understand about some of these ball players. Take Alex Rodriguez. Alex Rodriguez has made $500 million in his lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, after taxes, let's call it $250 million. All right, he's doing commentary on Fox. Why, man? Go be with your wife and kids, and hopefully your grandkids, and buy a small beach somewhere and live on it.
Right, like Alex Rodriguez is how old?
40, maybe 41, 42. He played a while, maybe 41 or 42.
Yeah, yeah, he did play a while.
Peace out, man. Go enjoy your life.
It's possible he just enjoys doing the commentary. A lot of these guys, once they get they love the sport, and so once they get out of being able to play it, they like to stay on in some capacity. You see this with Charles Barkley, although Charles Barkley needed a gig, but I tend to agree with you. Unless you just really enjoy doing it, you don't need no job, dude. Like, you don't.
Charles Barkley didn't need the gig. Have you never heard Charles Barkley talking about bankruptcy?
I don't believe I have.
Early in his career, bankrupt, and it was basically his manager stole all his money for all intents and purposes. So Charles Barkley's quote is, you hire an accountant to watch your money. Then you hire another accountant to watch that accountant. Then you hire another accountant to watch that accountant. Then you hire a lawyer to watch all the accountants. Then I'll watch everything the lawyer does.
Yeah.
And the money problems that Charles Barkley has now is from his gambling in Vegas, which I still don't think he's gambled all his money away, but he drops a lot of money in Vegas.
Yeah, he's a high roller in Vegas.
Dude, he's like Phil Mickelson, man. He'll show up and drop $1 million and not even think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how are you this week?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm all right. How's the shoulder doing?
It's okay. Committed an act of stupidity Friday and then heard it again today, so it's all right.
Need to not do that.
Well, I committed an act of stupidity Friday by trying to lift about 25 pounds with it, and then today I put I had a clipboard in my left hand, put about a 5-pound box up on a shelf with my right hand. As I put it up there, I looked down at the clipboard and I hear Pi yelling, and the box fell and hit the left arm and shoulder, and it was just all bad. Yeah, it's all right, man. I'll get there.
Eat a handful of gummy bears, you'll feel better.
Yeah, I'll get there, man.
Yeah.
I just want to say though, I hate at the moment. I have a real love-hate relationship with the Marvel app, and I'm leaning a lot more toward hate right now.
Oh, dude, I've had all kinds of trouble with it this week. In fact, I did good up until about 30 minutes ago. I was still reading comic books because I had so much trouble with the app this week. I couldn't get the books read. And I did well to get the comic books that are assigned to me done. Anything that you are reviewing just about, I wasn't able to read.
And here's the tip from us: log out. Your password probably isn't going to work, and just reset your password. Just log out, send an email to yourself, reset the password, then log back in again. That's the easiest way to do it.
Because what happened to me is my actual subscription got suspended because I hadn't changed my password in a certain amount of time. Now, I didn't get an email saying, please reset your password or your account's been suspended because you haven't changed your password. It just happened.
Just locked you out.
Dude, just in the middle of the week, my app's not working. I read a book. I use the offline reading feature to put comic books on my iPad. So when I go to work, I have comic books to read, which is where I read most of my comic books. And I just couldn't do it all week. And I was hesitant to to do the password thing because I've had issues in the past where I'll reset the password 3 and 4 and 5 times and still can't log in. And I didn't want to do that. But finally this afternoon, I just said the heck with it. Tried to log in because I couldn't read the comic books and we have to do a show. So I log out. I actually delete the app, re-download it. And when I tried to sign in, it told me that my account had been suspended. And as soon as I changed my password and re-logged in, I got an email that said, thank you for renewing your Marvel subscription.
Dude. The people we talked about Forza last week. The people that play Forza complain about the few. There's like every now and then it'll boot up and I won't have any sound and I'll have to reboot my whole Xbox. Okay. They consider that a major bug, but you can get into the freaking game and play. Okay. It's with the money Marvel is and could be generating from this app to not fix these problems is ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is. And I imagine it's not so much the fault of the people who are working on it, is that they're understaffed and under-resourced.
We've talked about this before during our previous 123 broadcast. Dude, there's no sense in this.
Yeah.
On a happier note, go ahead.
No, not on a happier note at all. I'm gonna rake Marvel over the coals for one more thing, and then we'll move on to happier notes and talk about the comic books that we thoroughly enjoyed this week because there were some good ones. And despite if this is the first time you're listening to this show, we love Marvel. We wouldn't be doing this podcast if we didn't. We wouldn't have done this once a week for 2 years if we didn't. But that doesn't mean that they don't make mistakes and aren't above reproach. So let's just start. Chuck Wendig, who's a writer and doesn't in his career has not really done comic books, was doing had been hired by Marvel to do a Star Wars comic book, a Darth Vader comic book specifically, a really interesting sounding one that they had just announced last week at New York City Comic Con. Now, if you don't know who Chuck Wendig is, he's wrote a bunch of stuff and it's all very good. But he got into the Star Wars game by writing, I forget the name of the trilogy, but it's the trilogy of books that spans the time between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. So that's where you get all of the politics between the New Republic and who are the bad guys in the new Star Wars?
The Trade Federation, the Empire?
No, not the Empire. The ones that came after the Empire that want to be the Empire.
I don't know. I'm drawing a blank because I'm thinking about.
I can't think of it either. I don't know where that just went, but it's gone.
Well, let me sidetrack you a moment.
Yeah.
When he put the first book out, I don't know if you read. I read 2 different articles on this, and the one I didn't post. When he put the first book out, he immediately started getting bad reviews and hate mail on it. I mean, the book launched at midnight, and at 12:01, he's getting death threats.
Yes.
So he was just like, okay, this is the way the internet works. You know, he ignored them. He'd respond to some of them. He's like, okay, whatever. You know, and he is, if you picture a foul-mouthed, no-nonsense Yankee, that's what he appears to be. And he responded in kind. He responded in kind. You know, if you sent him a profanity-laced tweet, he sent one back. Go ahead.
The first order is who those people are. Continue.
No, that's all I was going to say. So he responded in kind. When he got to Marvel, the same thing happened. He was getting, you know, hate tweets and he was being assaulted on Twitter like many Marvel writers are. And he just responded in kind. And Marvel said, no, you can't do that, you know, and fired him for it.
Well, specifically what happened is if you read his Twitter feed, he has no problem giving his opinion on his Twitter feed because it's his Twitter feed and he's allowed to do that. And sometimes in this day and age, it becomes political. And whether or not I agree with Chuck Wendig, I do, is irrelevant because that's his personal Twitter feed. Now, what happened is he put a gay character in Star Wars, and there's a segment of the fan base that got all up in arms about that, and they made a big to-do about it. They started harassing him online, harassing him at his home, harassing people around him. They put together a huge campaign to complain to Marvel, and Marvel said, "Oh, our fans don't like you, you're fired."
Yes.
Because he had the audacity to write a character who was gay.
And the excuse Marvel gave was you're too profane and too political on your Twitter feed.
Yeah, and you're too incendiary.
Yes.
Which means, hey, you're costing us money and these neck-bearded white fascists, white supremacists don't buy our comics.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, listen, if Marvel doesn't have the backs of their creators, let alone a straight white dude, which Chuck Wendig is, think about people like Heather Antos, who exited the industry altogether. She works for a video game company now. She was one of the editors at Marvel, and if you remember, there was the whole milkshake thing about a year or so ago.
Yeah.
Chelsea Kane, who also has exited the industry because she got all kinds of hate for what she did with Mockingbird, which was little to nothing, and the Marvel didn't have her back. So if you are a minority of some kind, black, gay, Hispanic, transgender, gender non-binary, whatever, in this industry, just know Marvel doesn't have your back.
Maybe this is why we're bigger in Japan and Amsterdam and overseas than we are in the United States.
Maybe, I don't know.
We do rednecks in the United States. We do, yes.
I just when you and I try to keep politics out of this podcast, especially these days, but man, if you can't have the back of one of the best writers, and we saw this something similar with James Gunn, if you can't have their back, if you're not willing to go to bat for them, if I were one of these high profile writers or directors, I'd think twice before I sign a contract with you.
Yeah, I know.
I don't care what the bottom line is. I don't care how much money you're going to put in my bank account. I'd think twice.
Okay. On a happier note.
Yeah.
Venom.
On a happier note, Chuck Wendig and James Gunn are all going to work for DC. Anyway. And this is going to become a DC podcast someday, maybe.
I tried to get you to start a second podcast for DC Comics a while back, and you didn't want to do it.
Dude, it's not that I don't want to do it. I don't have the time. Neither do you.
Man.
Neither do you.
Of course I don't. But, that doesn't stop me from doing anything.
Yeah, like playing Forza at 2 a.m.
For the fourth attempt, dude, it was actually 3:15.
Yeah, I get a text from you at 3:15. I hadn't played a video game this long in a long time. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, 3:15 in the morning. Yes. Okay, this is the half dozen attempt. Okay. Wow. Venom is in theaters. It got terrible reviews. Everyone expected it to bomb. It's done 145 some odd million domestically, plus what it's going to do overseas. The thing is a huge hit.
Yeah,
You
and I
saw it.
saw it this afternoon. I watched it this afternoon. I don't really understand what the reviews are on about. If you went into this movie expecting a Marvel Studios blockbuster, then you set yourself up for failure. It's not that. Is it a perfect movie? No. There's actually what's supposed to be an exciting motorcycle chase scene that I was kind of dozing off in the middle of. Um, and not that it wasn't exciting, but it did nothing to advance the story forward in a movie that already had a slow start to it. So I was just like, dude, can we get to where we're going here? Anyway, so just some thoughts on Venom. Tom Hardy was really good as Eddie Brock. Michelle Williams plays his love interest. Maybe I'm a little biased, but she was really good. They made a really good effort to make Venom scary and unsettling. Anytime you see Venom, and he doesn't get the symbiote right away, and even when he does, it's kind of a slow build to him becoming Venom. The voice in his head was creepy. Anytime you saw the symbiotes do anything, it set your spine just to tingling. It was good. The big fight scene at the end is good because there's always a big fight scene.
Who's the villain, or in this case, the hero that he fights?
Oh no, Venom's the hero in this little story. Now, what it is almost Tom Hardy, Eddie Brock is he basically makes a pact with the symbiote. You let me eat a few people occasionally, and I won't let this guy take one of our symbiotes back to space and bring all the other symbiotes back and eat all of the people on the planet. Okay. Which is it's kind of an anti-hero type thing.
Sure.
But the bad guy is this scientist who's the head of AIM. They don't call it AIM, but there's a bunch of dudes walking around in those suits. Dude's AIM. And they're supposed to be like a medical company, and they're curing cancer, and they've introduced all these life-saving drugs. But in reality, dude's crazy and is experimenting on poor people. And what he did is he funded a space mission to go to outer space to find the symbiotes because somehow he knew they were out there. And they don't really explain that, but he knew they're out there. Bring them back as a way to. He thought if they could put the two together, a host and a symbiote together, then humans can go live in space without having all of the barriers of entry that come to living in space. Breathing oxygen and things like that. And there's actually a number of different symbiotes in the movie. None of them get named, but it was a good movie. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It's got a couple of funny moments to break up because it's not a horror movie, but it has horror elements. It's got some funny bits to kind of break that up and make it, not so oppressive. And there's two scenes at the end, standard Marvel procedure, scene after the initial credits and the scene at the very end. The first scene sets up the sequel, and I'll give you one guess as to what it sets up.
I don't know. I'm thinking about Wolverine.
Nope.
No, I'm literally thinking about the only Wolverine book I'm going to review in a moment.
Okay. No, it's and who? Well, I won't spoil it, but
yeah, because we don't do spoilers.
We do actually, but I'll save it for now. But anyway, it's a good movie. Go see it. Is it Infinity War? No. Is it Black Panther? No. Is it a good 2-hour, popcorn flick? Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. It's a good time. Anyway, if you want to email us about what you thought of Venom, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That is the number 6 months behind at gmail.com.
The website is www.6monthsbehind.com. Let us discuss the website a moment. I was slow at work today, so I decided to, what am I looking for here?
Tinker.
Thank you. Tinker is a very good word. Tinker with the website. It's not perfect at this point. However, as new listeners may not know, other people may not know, every week the alternate covers are there and they're put in pages. Okay. Because everything I put in a post gets confusing. And you and I have talked about this before. If I put the alternate covers in a post, it would run the entire length of the blog. Okay. So I'll create a page with the covers on it, then put like 2 or 3 covers and a link and say, here they are. And I do the same thing with news stories, the same thing with what's next. They're all there, but I don't put them on the front page all the time. Like I've added the last 3 or 4 weeks of covers over the last 3 or 4 weeks, but I haven't put anything on the front page for it. Now, previously, there was a drop-down tab. You click on what's next, and it shows you all the what's next episodes. By the way, all 24 of them are now there. You click on the alternate covers tab, and they're all there now. I'm working on it. Okay. It's a work in progress. If you look at it on your phone, you get the blog, and then below that, you get this long list of alternate covers and what's next. If you look at it on a PC, it's on the side, so it really doesn't look as bad. But it should be a sub menu, and I'm trying to get that sub menu back. Yeah, it's getting there.
So it's a work in progress.
However, the bottom line is everything's there. If you want any of the alternate covers recently, if you want any of the what's next episodes, they're all there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yes.
One last little bit of information. As Pat said earlier, we do discuss spoilers. We are going to talk about the spoilers of all the comic books that came out in Marvel Unlimited this week. And being that we are 6 months behind and we do know what's on what's being published after this fact, there may come spoilers that were not covered in the comic books this week that are to come. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you can hit pause after you've read all the comic books, come back. We'll still be here.
We will still be here. I have a giant stack of comic books, very giant, about 20 of them to my left to be read.
There you go.
Yep.
Cool. So starting off this week, we're going to start with Avengers, as is customary, with Avengers No Surrender number 678. Is it 678? Yeah, it is. Okay, I thought it was 688. I'm getting ahead of myself. So the Gambit's up, and Voyager is caught, essentially. And all the Avengers are like, so explain yourself, because we all remember you, and now all of a sudden those memories are fading, and we're mad. She explains to them exactly what was going on, who her father is, what this was all a game. Earth was the battlefield. These were the players. You guys just caught in the middle of it. You were meant to be obstacles for the teams. They're not real happy about that. Meanwhile, Bruce Banner is getting a little heart-to-heart talk from Jarvis about his current condition as an immortal Hulk. Dr. Tony Ho can't seem to fix the Vision. Quicksilver has figured out what's keeping a number of the Avengers in stasis. It's these things floating around them that he can only see because he moves really fast. And Voyager explains, you kind of get like a little a briefing on who the Game Master is, or I guess I should say was, who the Elders of the Universe are and why they do what they do. It's then things start going to heck in a handbasket in New York because the new Game Master is mad and he's going to blow up New York and the rest of Earth with it.
Yeah. It's a good book.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I went into this story not excited because I wasn't interested in Voyager, and now I'm coming into it like, it's all right.
Yeah, that's how it is. In our X-Men books this week, we have all new Wolverine number 33. Now,
loved this.
I'm going to say I love this. Then I'm going to rip it to pieces. Then I'm going to come back and tell you why I loved it.
Okay.
First off, I've lost track. We have Old Man Deadpool, Old Man Spider-Man, Old Man Logan, Old Man Hawkeye. Did we really need Old Woman Laura? Seriously? Is this really what we needed?
It's the trend.
It's the trend.
It's
so
trendy to be old.
It's what we got. Secondly, when you said at the top in the teasers that Wolverine was dying, were you referring to Old Man Logan or Old Woman Laura?
Old Woman Laura, because that's the story here.
Okay. Well, Old Man Logan's dying too.
Yeah, well,
we haven't got there yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Told you, spoilers.
Yeah. Anywho, so this is Madripoor, the not so far future. It's got to be a far future. It got to be at least 10 years, probably 20.
That's
somewhere between 10 and 20 years.
It's not far at all.
Dude, you consider me old, and I'm like 20 years older than you.
I give you a hard time. You're not old.
I actually am old. I just act like a kid. My parents are staying with me. They're like, "You're playing video games?" Yeah. Reading comic books? Yeah. I never grew up. I don't plan on growing up.
Right. Like, I didn't have money for these things when I was a kid. Now I can do this.
Eric Brueggemann is 67. My goal was to grow up and be Eric Brueggemann. And when he grows up, I'll let you know about it. You know,
dude, that guy's, dude, he's just a big kid with bad knees.
And that's my goal.
You know? Just a big kid with bad knees.
So anywho, I'm going to be a big kid with bad shoulders. That's what I am, actually.
Yeah, there you go.
So we see Wolverine attacking a yacht that has guns that have been taken from, that have been smuggled out of Latveria, which we learned eventually. We've learned it almost instantly. This isn't the same Wolverine. This is Gabby with Stark Tech armor on. And she reports back to the Queen of Madripoor, who has made Madripoor Paradise, which happens to be Laura Kinney. And that's when Laura gets around to telling her that she's dying. And they're going to go on one last mission because Laura's kind of got this whole thing that she's doing. She sneaks into the president's office, and the president is Kamala Khan. And dude, Kamala's not 15 here. Okay, so we got to be at least 20 years.
Right.
You got to be 35 to be president. That's 20 years.
Yeah.
No.
She's at least 40 in this.
Yes. There you go. We get a recap on how we got here. Then Fiddle File, I just forgot her name. Maria Hill shows up. And it's an old Maria Hill that looks kind of like Nick Fury in a way. And they decide to break into Latveria. And there you go.
Yeah. So apparently there's like this whole like Doom war that happens eventually. And Doom stole a bunch of bad guys out of a prison when that happened, a helicarrier prison. Yeah. And apparently there's a dome around Latveria now that keeps it away from the outside world, but there's a way in. And there's a weird twist at the end of this comic that I'm not sure I understand, but we'll get it in the next issue.
I didn't understand it either, but we'll get it in the next issue.
Yeah. I enjoyed this. This was good.
It was very good.
I like seeing Gabby grown up. I kind of like when they do stuff like this, when it's like, you know, oh, what happens to the X-Men in the future, or what happens to this character in the future, or what happens here. Just seeing Gabby taking on the mantle of Wolverine, Laura being the Queen of Madripoor and cleaning it up, Kamala Khan being president was the real highlight there. Maria Hill being Nick Fury was really cool. I enjoyed everything about this.
What Mark Millar did with Old Man Logan, which ran as a series like this in the Wolverine book at the time. I want to say it's Wolverine Volume 2.
Yeah.
It was like, what was it? 6 issues and then a one shot. Literally, I don't want to say change the comic forever or change the comic universe forever, but dude, it definitely impacted everything that has come since. Yeah. And the fact that you see so many old characters right now and you see so many future storylines like this, you know, is and you could probably make the case that, you know, Peter David started it with Future Imperfect with the older Hulk, but anyway you get there, man, this is a good story.
Yeah, or Spider-Man 2099 or whatever, but Old Man Logan, Mark Millar's Old Man Logan is the most recent and long-lasting spin on this take, and it's working, in this new Wolverine book. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
Moving on to Astonishing X-Men number 10. All the X-Men are going to fight. They're going to Scotland to fight Proteus, who's basically absorbing all of the people in this village. None of them trust X or Professor X, and that's telling, especially because it's Old Man Logan. I don't have a whole lot to say about this comic because it's short. Two, I didn't really, man. I know Charles Soule's writing it, but I'm a little burnt out on this. Like, I'm not loving it. They're fighting Proteus, and that's about it. Just not.
It's not. We've had this discussion before, and you didn't understand what I was saying. Okay, this book isn't short. Almost every page is a double splash page.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And the app counts that as one page instead of two.
I understand, but it feels like narratively it feels short. They're in the Warbird or in the Blackbird. They're flying to Scotland. They're all talking about how they don't trust Professor X. They come up with a plan. They fight for a few pages. Proteus gets the upper hand. That's the end of the comic book, and it just feels short.
Yeah, I'm glancing at it. It's definitely more artistic than it is
substance. Yeah.
Yes. It's not a Brian Michael Bendis, Jessica Jones book with, 1,000 words of dialogue each page.
Yeah, and the whole issue doesn't move the story forward, but just a tad. You don't make a lot of progress in this comic.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. It was okay. The cover looks good.
Yeah. Dude, the book looks good.
Yeah, it does. I'm not loving it. That's okay. We've got other good X-Men comics, like New Mutants.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're feeling about this New Mutants comic, but I'm enjoying it.
I didn't get to read it because the app wouldn't open.
Yeah. So there's this old Russian spy base in Siberia. And I think it's Siberia.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't. It's somewhere very cold. We'll call it Siberia. And it was supposed to be decommissioned in the 80s. It really wasn't. And some weird stuff's going on, and some of these Russian agents get kidnapped or eaten, or we're not really sure, but there's some weirdness going on in this Russian base. Meanwhile, in Brooklyn, the New Mutants are having brunch. When Illyana shows up and says, "Hey, we got a mission," and immediately transports them to Siberia. They're sitting in a outside on a patio in shorts and t-shirts, eating brunch, and just boom, you're in the coldest place on the planet. They come across this base, start investigating, find one dude. He's like, "Yeah, there's a thing out there." This whole issue had this sort of. You ever see the movie The Thing?
No.
Okay. Well, you should. It had that kind of vibe of like a monster in the snow kind of thing. Turns out it's a frost giant, and they've got to take down a frost giant. And Illyana finds a really inventive way to do just that. So yeah. Also, I'm not going to spoil the last page, but there's a real interesting cameo from a former New Mutant there that I assume will play into the next issue. But yeah, the New Mutants take on a frost giant, and it's pretty good. I'm enjoying this comic. I liked the New Mutants the first time around way back in the day, so I'm enjoying seeing them team up again.
I would have enjoyed the book if I could have read it. I started having problems with the app about 24 hours ago, 36 hours ago, and literally got it corrected right before we went on the air. Mm-hmm. If you don't want spoilers, you need to pause here and skip ahead about 2 minutes. In wrestling, a swerve is when you build the audience toward one thing and then you do another. Okay. The greatest swerve of all time in 1996, Bret Hart was a giant hero and Stone Cold Steve Austin was a villain. Okay. I want to say it was the Royal Rumble in 96. They did a double swerve, but the end of the match, Bret Hart was a villain and Steve Austin was a hero. And he went on to become, 316 and sell $100 billion in t-shirts. And, Bret Hart went on to become whatever Bret Hart became, a bitter old man.
Yeah.
And because you get the audience expecting one thing and then they get something else. So that being said, let's discuss these next two books. Rogue and Gambit. Rogue and Gambit, this is Rogue and Gambit number 4. And the villain, whoever she is, I don't really care, is experimenting on them. They manage to break free. And in fighting their doppelgangers, is that correct? Did I pronounce that correctly?
Doppelgangers.
Doppelgangers, thank you. The Myers pronunciation incorrectly for the week. In fighting their doppelgangers, they somehow tap into each other's memories. So Rogue gets Gambit's memories of previous events and dates and times that they were together, and Gambit gets Rogue memories. And at the end, there's lots of doppelgangers there, and they're about to fight them, and they're like, "Oh, I love you. I love you. Oh, we're gonna, if we get out of this, we're gonna live happily ever after. Okay, let's go face impossible odds and fight them." Okay, that's where that book leads off. Sure. In X-Men number 25, Colossus is sitting around saying, I should be getting married instead of doing this. There you go. Yeah. Go ahead and tell us about X-Men Gold number 25.
Yeah, so if you've been reading this, you know that the X-Men have been dealing with this alien god Scythian. Well, he's in France now, on Earth, and most of this comic is them fighting that guy. Illyana finds a way to, well, it's not Illyana, it's Storm. Storm finds a way to bust all the X-Men who are in prison out of prison with her powers. Illyana's there to get them to the battlefield. The European X-Men are there for some reason. Storm gets to wield Stormbreaker again, which if you don't know what Stormbreaker is, there was a time when she held a hammer much like Thor's.
Which was totally cool.
Yeah, well, she gets to do that again. Yeah, it's really just a big fight comic.
And I'm not banging on that book because Colossus is sitting around wishing he was getting married instead of doing this. I'm just saying, it kind of detracted from it. What I really enjoyed about this book was the characterization of Storm in it.
Yeah, that was the highlight of the comic.
Right, because at the end of the last issue, you think, oh, she's going to, freak out, become recluse and all this sort of thing. She was like, no, I ain't doing this. Busted herself out, walked into the warden's office and said, hey, I'm leaving. Okay, now you can let me leave on good terms or you can let me leave on bad terms, but peace out. Really great story, man. Really good.
Yeah, it specifically for the Storm point of view, it was very good. The rest of it was just fine, but the Storm stuff really elevated the comic.
Yeah, art was good too.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we have Black Bolt number 12. This is the last book in this series. Uhura and the little alien's name that I don't remember are in Black Bolt's mind.
The one with the eyeballs.
Yeah. Did they? Where was it? I was reading they were calling, and it may have been that Venomized book. They were calling somebody Eyeball Kid, one of the mutants. I was like,
yeah, it's really? That Venomized book.
I was like, is that his name? Eyeball?
No.
That's what they called him like 3 or 4 panels though.
Yeah, they just call him Eyeball Kid the whole thing and then kill him.
I was like, okay, whatever. Anyway, so Eyeball Girl here and Uhura are roaming around Black Bolt's mind. Who's is it a dude? Okay,
yeah,
whatever.
It's a dude.
You can tell how much I care.
Yeah,
and they're fighting the jailer that Black Bolt imprisoned millennia ago, or Black Bolt's ancestors, I should say, imprisoned millennia ago. The Absorbing Man and Titania, rally up and they go say Black Bolt, and Black Bolt winds up living in their apartment. And everybody lives happily ever after. Medusa winds up on the roof. He and Medusa are making out. Are they making out and they just touching foreheads? I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing something. And
both.
It's the end of the series. Everybody lives happily ever after at the end. It's pretty cool.
Okay, good.
Go
ahead.
The art and again the color. And I talk about this every time I read one of these books. The color is look off.
The color what?
The coloring in the book. The color of the art
is what
makes the book outstanding.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The art is where this book really shines. It's not the story's just okay. I could do without it, but art's what really made this series shine. I didn't get a chance to read this, so I'll have to go back and read it because believe it or not, I liked an Inhuman comic book.
And and again, the art in this is just, and really the color. The color is what I enjoy most, but it's really good, man. It's very good.
Cool.
Who was it? I need to go back and look. Who did that Winter Soldier book a couple of years ago, where he was doing the man in the wall bit, and it had a lot of spectacular colors like this. I need to go back and look at that and see who that was. And anywho,
Okay. Moving on to Spider-Man, we have Spider-Man 239. So if you've been keeping up with this, you know that Miles's uncle, Hobby Brown, is in fact alive. He's been outfitted with a new Iron Spider suit by the lady we saw in the Iron Man comic last week, who's upgrading and giving high-tech weaponized suits to villains. So Miles Spider-Man goes to break into his uncle's apartment to find information about this helicarrier that they stole, and he finds out where they're taking it. Meanwhile, on this helicarrier, which is about 11,000 feet over the Atlantic Ocean, they're Hobby Brown is complaining that this is a flying invisible helicarrier and it can't play songs on demand, which his phone can do. Which, whatever. Turns out the Hobgoblin backstabbed him and turned him in to the authorities. Doesn't matter. They're already in Latveria. They can just make the deal and get away without anyone ever finding out. Because they're going to hand the helicarrier over to Lucia von Bardus, who's at this time the kind of wannabe emperor of Latveria.
Yeah.
The champions show up. There's a big old fight. And yeah, it might not work out for the champions. We'll see. We'll find out in the next issue.
Speaking of big old fights, they've been slow building Dan Slott in his final hurrah on Amazing Spider-Man 798 is where we're at, has been slow building this Norman Osborn thing for, it seems like a year. I'm sure it's not, because this book comes out twice a month. But it really hit its stride in this issue, because this issue is essentially one big fight scene. The Green Goblin, Harry Osborn, shows up at the Daily Bugle where Peter is working and looks at Peter Parker and says, "Hey, I want Spider-Man and I want him now." Why? Because, J. Jonah Jameson spilled the beans the last issue and he figured out who Peter is. He also throws Ben Urich, his son's head, in a bag at him and with a bomb strapped to it. And then Spider-Man shows up. They begin fighting, and it's just a giant brawl to the end of this thing. A couple of pages from the end, after the bomb's gone off, you think Norman / Green Goblin is dead because he's impaled on some steel. The problem is that's when he resurrects himself as Carnage and just begins to really stalk Spider-Man. And that's when this really gets good. Dude, this is a great book, man.
I'll have to go back and read it.
Did you not read it?
Couldn't. It was one of the comics I really wanted to read and couldn't do it.
Dude, this book seriously got good this issue. Yeah, it did.
Good. I'll plan on reading it.
Yep.
Moving on to our Marvel Universe comics with Iron Fist number 79. This book sucks. I'm just going to let you know. This is the Damnation tie-in, the whole thing going on in Doctor Strange. There's a Iron Fist who's old and being made to box in the Hotel Inferno, and Danny Rand and Fat Cobra come in, and it's basically a Rocky movie from here on out. set in hell and with the Iron Fist. Dude, I can't bring myself to even continue saying anything else about it. Because did you read it?
No, it was one of the ones I didn't get to read because the app was bad.
It sucked. Iron Fist got canceled today. or this weekend. And if it had been anything like this comic book, I'd have understood why.
I enjoyed both of the Iron Fist series. I know a lot of people hated on it. I enjoyed it, man.
The first season was fine. Season 2 was much better.
We're obviously talking about the Iron Fist Netflix series.
Iron Fist
Netflix. Yes.
Yeah. The Netflix series got canned, and that's a bummer because I actually really enjoyed the second season, and they left it on a huge cliffhanger.
So, I understand they did. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you not finished the season?
No, I have not. No.
Okay. Well, they left it on a huge cliffhanger, and guess we're not doing that.
I guess not. I'd heard it was a pretty big cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Next, we have Marvel 2-in-1 number 5. Valerio Schiti is doing the art in this now.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Sure. I'm okay. Schiti, you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Anywho, they're in the Baxter building. Of course, Reed Richards is still depressed and freaked out because he lost to Doom. Ben Grimm tries to beat him up, and it doesn't work out for either one of them. By that time, Sue shows up and says, hey, you got to get this together because, Doom's finally here to eat Earth. The Doom Galactus that we were introduced in issue 4 last time.
Yeah, Doom and Galactus merged together or something.
Yeah. All the heroes go and attack except Reed, who kind of cowers in the corner. Finally, Reed, comes to his senses and saves everyone, and then realizes, okay, I got to get my life together here and, become Mr. Fantastic again. They ally himself with Victor Von Doom from a different reality. And then they go looking for another hero at the end of this story, which is pretty good. It was a nice little swerve there at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a very good little swerve.
Yeah. I skimmed this the other day, or not the other day, like 2 hours ago. So I didn't get all of it, but it was one of the comics I wanted to.
Should I do the spoiler or just leave the last pages by themselves?
I'm gonna let you make that call, brother.
Emma Frost is married to a human, Norrin Radd, and Ben and Johnny go to him for help.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting little twist there.
Yeah, it was. It was a very good little twist.
Yeah. Tell you what else was really good was Rise of Black Panther number 4. You and I have banged on a few of the Black Panther comics, but this is not one of them. This explores like the early days of T'Challa being the Black Panther. And as we saw at the end of last episode, T'Challa walks into the throne room and finds Victor Von Doom sitting on his throne, the Wakandan throne. So in this issue, the first thing that he does is take one of his Kimoyo beads off of his bracelet, throw it in the throne room, and blow it up. Because he understood that it was not Victor Von Doom, it was a Doombot. But he can use that Doombot to infiltrate Victor Von Doom's security network in Latveria. So he and Shuri are going to Latveria. And Doom and T'Challa get to go have dinner and discuss things as heads of state do, while Shuri gets a tour of Latveria from a Doombot. It's during this time that she hacks into the Doombot and is able to, basically she's able to hack them so that they can't see her. And she goes to one of the data centers, picks out a bunch of data, realizes there's a third party involved here that we don't really know anything about, reports back. T'Challa and Doom obviously don't see eye to eye, get into a little scuffle, and head back to Latveria. There you go. Yeah, it was pretty good.
I'm glad. You know what wasn't pretty good?
Runaways number 8.
And Thanos, the Infinity Siblings. Runaways number 8, you got one of the Power Kids there, which is fine. I don't care that she shows up there in Los Angeles and her girlfriend, who's one of the Runaways, stands her up and doesn't pick her up at the airport. I don't care that Vincent is still just a headless body, and then Doom shows up and wants the head, and they're all trying to fight this Doom. That I don't care, man. I don't care. And next you have the Thanos Infinity Twins book, Infinity Siblings. This book is 105 pages long.
Dude, that's a graphic novel.
I got to thumbing through it thinking there must be like backup stories or something, and maybe I can just read the main story because it's kind of bad, but I can trudge my way through it if I know it's only like 50 of the 105 pages. No, it's all one story that Jim Starlin wrote about Eros, and who's Thanos' brother, and Thanos, and whatever, man. I don't care. It was bad, man.
I thought you liked Jim Starlin.
I do.
You didn't like this?
There's a reason the Marvel editor said, dude, you're not writing Thanos anymore. Sorry for your luck.
Okay.
I mean, if this was his last work on Thanos, this was pretty bad. And I'm a huge Jim Starlin fan.
Oh, that's a bummer. You know, he would say that it was, you know, it was biased against him and they were, you know, kind of nasty about it. But if he's putting out that kind of work, well, brother,
this should have been a 12-page backup story somewhere.
Yeah.
And instead it's drug out for, it was 104, 105 pages, man. Well, you're talking about the next book. I'll tell you exactly how many pages it were. I was just like, oh my God, you're kidding. Lord. It just went on and on and on and on, man.
So Punisher number 223, still doing the War Machine thing. He's still got the War Machine armor. If you remember last issue, he's going after this warlord in some Eastern European country. Dude launched a nuke. Frank's got to stop the nuke. In order to do that, his armor can't fly fast enough, so he starts dropping dead weight from the armor, including the weapon systems and certain pieces of the armor. He's able to catch the rocket, blow up the fuselage, and he lands back on the ground holding the warhead. There's two other guys, the ex-SHIELD agents who are in Iron Man armor as well. And he's like, listen, you got to the count to 5 or I'm going to drop this warhead on you. And he's like, they're like, are you really going to kill all these people that you intended to save? I mean, it compromises your whole mission. He just starts counting. And he's like, get out of your armor. I'm going to drop the warhead on you. So what happens is Nick Fury steps in and sets off a localized EMP, which disables both the warhead and everybody's Iron Man armor. So now nobody's got armor on, and Frank does what Frank does best and just takes these dudes out. They think because they're ex-SHIELD agents, they're bad stuff, but he, with ease, just slaughters these dudes. He goes after Petrov, who's the dictator and warlord here. Dude comes out in his Iron Man armor that wasn't affected by the EMP. And dude thinks he's got the upper hand on the Punisher because he's got armor and Frank doesn't. But Frank's like, listen, I've worn that same set of armor. I know where the weak points are. I know how to get you. He stabs him in the eye, cuts his hand off. Finally, he just decides he's going to fly away. Punisher takes his knife and shoves it into dude's knee. They start going up into the upper atmosphere when the Punisher manages to pull the arc reactor out of the chest of the armor. They come crashing back to Earth. Frank activates the repulsor and is able to land safely, while the other guy in a humongous suit of armor crashes and presumably becomes soup inside the armor. Later, we find Nick Fury sitting in his office when Captain Marvel comes in. She's like, do you know where he is? No. They cover the armor? No. Do you know how to stop him? No, but I'm sure he'll turn up. And in the background, there's a news report happening where they show that the Punisher killed all these guys in Chernaya, and now things are, just awful there. Meanwhile, in the Bronx, a bunch of crime lords are having a dinner meeting when Frank Castle in the armor shows up and just blows them all to hell. So, yeah. Now you've got Frank Castle wearing the Iron Man armor, or rather the War Machine armor, walking around New York.
Yeah. This was a very good book.
Yeah, I enjoyed it thoroughly.
If not for a couple others, it would have been my book of the week, but it definitely came in third. Next, we have Venom number 164. You and I need to, there are technical reasons we don't have this on YouTube yet, but if people were on YouTube, they could see that you and I have both reached a reclining position. Yes. And we're both just like laid back, really, really comfortable. It's funny to look at. They've been doing this slow build in Venom where there's something Eddie and the symbiote aren't exactly communicating. And you've kind of seen it for a while now. Like the symbiote's been watching the news and going out at night and, doing things. And this issue opens with Eddie having yet another nightmare. Eddie's been having nightmares. And, or is this the other guy? Is this,
it's not Flash Thompson.
Okay. It's Eddie. If it's not Flash, it's Eddie. Okay. So anywho, so then he goes out to do some good. And there's this scene where the Shocker is robbing a jewelry store. And it's 4 or 5 pages of dude, it's just funny. It's just because, did you get to read this?
Nah.
The Shocker actually, at some point, the diamonds start vibrating because of the Shocker attacking him. Venom freaks out, and the symbiote leaves Eddie there. So this, because the symbiote freaks out and runs. And the Shocker's all happy. He's excited. He actually won a battle with a superhero. He runs out in the street and gets hit by a car and drops all the diamonds and then gets arrested. It's pretty funny, man. It's just it's a great big levity. So then Eddie, he knows something's wrong, and they're walking around doing this inner monologue with symbiote when I don't know who this woman is. Apparently she was there's references here, she was an old girlfriend or something, and she's now working for S.H.I.E.L.D., and they want to catch Venom in the symbiote, although that dude looks like AIM. I don't know what they are. Anywho, at the end, we learned that Venom's symbiote is pregnant and about to have a kid.
Oh, okay.
Which I didn't know they could do that, but apparently they can.
Well, they got to reproduce somehow, I guess.
Apparently. And the symbiote didn't bother telling Eddie, and that's why it has been running around so protective of herself and Eddie because she doesn't want the baby hurt.
Okay.
It was actually very good.
Is it? Okay, good. Because
it really is.
That seems like a weird direction to go.
It was a weird direction, and it's taken a while to get there because I've been doing a slow build on this for several issues, but it's interesting. It's a good book.
Okay. Something else that I can't decide if it was good or not is Venomized number 1.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I read this. It was 32 pages, so there was a bunch of it. If you remember the Venom story from 6 months ago, where there's all these other Venom symbiotes they call themselves the Poisons, and
yep,
they're picking up superheroes from all the different universes, and they're led by Venom, Thanos, and Doctor Doom, who have delusions of grandeur, of conquest of multiple universes. I don't really know what their motivation is. That's what this is. So that it was a huge seller. It sold like crazy. So they're putting it everywhere now. We're seeing bits of it in X-Men Blue. And then this picks up with that, where Boy, the X-Men that we were talking about earlier, they're just hanging out at the X Mansion, and he's like, "Oh, X-Force is here," and then they just blow him away because it's Venom Cable and Venom Wolverine and Venom Domino, and it's Venom X-Force. Anyway, they've come to take over all the X-Men in the X-Mansion, including Nightcrawler and the other Old Man Logan and Colossus, Kitty. Hulk and Thor get wrapped up in this along with Hawkeye. There's a whole chase scene between Spider-Man and one of the symbiotes. And the real thing is there's this thing called the Anomaly. Also, no one knows where Jean Grey is. There's this thing called the Anomaly, which they're referring to as Carnage. or they're referring to Carnage as the anomaly. And Carnage is unable to be assimilated because of his symbiote. Something about his symbiote doesn't match with the others, but they keep trying to experiment on him. Yeah, I don't know where this is going. Jury's still out on this one.
As we said earlier, Venom is red hot, and this is simply another. I call him Bundriden. It's not bad. It's just, it is what it is, man.
Yeah, it is what it is. Meanwhile, in Star Wars number 46, so we know the plan is for the rebellion to rescue Lichar, King of the Mon Cala, in order to win the Mon Cala over to the side of the rebellion. Lichar's been imprisoned by the Imperials for like 15 years at this point. So they hire this changeling who is famous. She's like a bounty hunter. She's like famous for impersonating heads of state and people high up in the empire, things like that. She's going to impersonate one of the Grand Moffs at a opera event, kidnap him, and she's going to play his role so no one notices he's gone, while they infiltrate the prison planet that is the prison where they're keeping the King of Mon Cala. So they sneak into this big event where all the Imperial bigwigs are, and they do it in a bathroom. And what they decide to do is put like not poison, but something to make the Moff sick. So he runs into the bathroom and they can kidnap him there. The problem becomes that one of the other Moffs needs to use the bathroom too. And they decide, that there's no way they can stop him without being discovered. So they let her into the bathroom, and Han's standing there along with Chewie. And Han's like, "Oh, I'm your bathroom attendant." And she's like, "What's the deal with the Wookiees?" She's like, "Oh, you dry your hands on the Wookiee. It's the latest fashion." So after she gets done, she does just that. She walks up to Chewie, dries her hands on the Wookiee, and she's like, "Oh, that was quite the experience. I can see why it's becoming so popular." It was funny. Anyway, they're gonna go bust King Lichar out of this prison planet. It was good.
Two of the alternate covers that actually are on the front page of the website are Star Wars this week. One's a alternate cover of Chewbacca that's really, really good.
I'll go check them out.
Maybe it's next week. I think it's this week. I don't know. Somewhere there's a good alternate cover of Chewbacca.
Okay, cool. What was your favorite comic book this week?
Amazing Spider-Man 798.
All right. You didn't even hesitate.
Didn't even hesitate. It looked good. It's Dan Slott at his best. Yeah, man, it's good.
I tell you what looks good is I saw the preview for that new Spider-Man animated movie that's coming out in a couple months.
Really?
That thing looks good. Yeah.
That's
Spider-Man
cool.
Into the Universe. First of all, I like that they're trying to take the idea of multiple universes and specifically multiple Spider-Man from multiple universes and make that a mainstream concept. I really like that. At the same time, it looks good. It looks like it's going to be funny. Yeah, man. It's got all your favorite alternate Spider-Man characters. Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy is Spider-Gwen. You've got the Noir Spider-Man there. Spider-Ham's in it. So, yeah, it looks good.
Cool.
My favorite comic book this week was far and away All New Wolverine 33.
That was a close second.
Yeah. Just the whole concept of and everything going on in that comic is cool. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yep. in the dump this week, we have a lot of books from the mid to late 90s, mid 2000s, X-Men Black Sun, which came out in 2000, some Peter Parker, some Venom, some Web of Spider-Man, all of books which should have been there years ago, but are just now getting into Marvel Unlimited.
Okay. Just to let you guys know, we do have a What's Next episode coming soon. Probably this weekend, all about Captain Marvel. So be on the lookout for that in your podcast feed. That'll pretty much wrap us up. If you want to get in touch with us, you can get in touch with us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That is the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
The website is www.6monthsbehind.com,
where you can see all the alternative covers and experience our work in progress.
Yes, it is definitely a work in progress.
Yeah. So, as is our tradition, Pat, will you leave us with some wisdom this week?
I prefer to be a pessimist. It makes it easier to deal with my inevitable failure.
That's my philosophy in life.
I know it is. When I read it.
Yeah, just don't get your hopes up. If things don't turn out the way you want them, well, you expected it. If they turn out better than you expected, well, hey, nice surprise. That's I don't know if that's a healthy philosophy to have, but it's the one I got.
I understand.
All right, we'll see y'all next week.
Peace.